So, dream activation workshop. Let's go. First thing we're going to do is play a little bit with the who am I? Who are we? Because, as I spoke to before, we're not actually all these things that we're so attached to our identity, right? So, as you can see on the right hand side here under the picture of me, I wrote loving awareness incarnate. I play with that sometimes when people ask me, like, who are you? I'm like, well, I'm not actually this name. I'm not actually this body. Like, at the very root and the very core of it all, if you're familiar with The Secret by Rhonda Byrne, I think that's where we talk about, like, you strip everything away, all the material possessions down to like our bodies and just our relationships. It's all gone. There's nothing but awareness. Awareness is just pure consciousness, right? And it doesn't seem to be provable that we can ever actually remove or delete that. So it's interesting to know, right? But if we want to get into my avatar, this earthly identity of who I pretend to be sometimes, I am a surfer diver, farmer gardener, raised in Florida, and learned to swim at an early age. I was telling Beth I love seashells. I want to make sure we are recording, and I feel like I should.
On my end, it says we are.
Okay, thank you, dear. I'm gonna make sure everybody is muted again and see if I can't. Oh, we have someone left to admit. It's a good thing I checked. All right. Thanks for joining us, everybody who is now popping in. I knew I had something to check for you. Thank you for making sure you're muted. And yes, let's continue on. Trying to make it so that when I am sharing my screen, it's me up there. Anybody has any ideas? Those are welcome. I can actually check the chat right now. That's okay. We're just going to go with it. And I know I'm sharing my screen, so that's all that matters. I kind of feel bad just letting it focus on one person, though. And that's just how it's going to be, though. Okay. If I could pick myself, that would be one thing. We'll just let the universe say it's not about me, as we're talking about me or who I pretend to be. So, talking about growing up in Florida and learning to swim at a young age, I was dunked under the water by my swim teacher, and I got out and called her the B word. And I had already been throwing tantrums for a while. So my mom couldn't handle it, and she sent me to anger management. Blessing in disguise. I was so angry, really didn't think I needed it. It was, 5-year-old thinking, like, I don't need this. Like, what do I have to learn from these adults who know nothing about life? Long story short, I learned how to take a deep breath, count to 10, and quickly realize that when I'm angry, I can literally feel my blood pressure rising, and it felt like my blood is boiling. And so that was my very first experience crash course in breath work, where I learned the power of just taking a step back and getting some space from these emotions that we can identify with so easily, right? And get carried away. So that's why I put that in here, is that at 5 years old, I went to anger management, and years later, I'm still discovering the magic of what that actually meant for me in my life, and been a student of life and art my whole life, all the natural sciences, marine biology, everything from yoga, Ayurveda, and nutrition to breath, mycology, organic, regenerative, and no-till permaculture, all the way to the law of attraction and vibration. I am a deadhead. I found freedom and just everything that I wanted to feel, and music, and just such a wonderful life on tour following the Grateful Dead. The music that I once told someone interviewing me, asking me why I'm here, that the music sings my soul. I'm a waterpreneur. obviously helping people get the most activating living water on the planet and step into the same global business opportunity that I'm here every Thursday to show up for. A savage raw foodist. I worked at a health food store for 1 year and just noticed all the people coming through that even though I could tell they were like in their 60s and 70s, they were super tan, buff, they still had all their long hair or not, they had all the color, they had all their hair, and just took note that they were putting a whole lot of fruits and vegetables, all organic and nothing in packages on the conveyor belt and into their carts. And so I picked up with my girlfriend who I got the job with one of a few of the raw food books that we had on the shelves about like the living food lifestyle, and dove head first in, did that for about 5 years and went to college. And it was kind of isolating, hard to keep up with no one else really doing it around me. So I kind of dabbled and experimented and tried other things here and there, but here I am just living the life again. I, finally got comfortable, like not really letting it affect me what the rest of the world is doing and just do what resonates with me, right? How powerful that one is. I'm a dog mama and an earth advocate, obviously. And so last little bit here about me is I'm not really like into, but having discovered Vedic or galactic astrology, being aligned with the 13-month lunar calendar instead of the Gregorian calendar that's been fudged, as we all know, and messed around and created Western astrology, which has confused everybody into thinking that we are who we're not. I have found out that I'm not a Pisces, I'm an Aquarian. That alien technology on the edge of society is actually like, I'm not weird for feeling like that. That's my sun sign. In human design, I'm an emotional projector. Projectors are about 20% of the population, I believe. I'm a self-proclaimed word nerd and freedom fanatic. And there in brackets, I put the words metacognist / polymath. And so a polymath is just someone who is interested in, typically well-versed in a wide variety of subjects. And metacognist really just is to break it into simple, to make it really simple, is to think about your thoughts, think about thinking. So cognition is thinking, and metacognist, we talk about like metaphysics is like beyond just, basic physics is just above it. And so I've always been so fascinated with cognition. And this one's a little bit funny to share, but when in 2007, I was in high school, a friend was making a Facebook for me because I didn't want to have one. She was making it and I had to have a password. And so at the time, I was so present in my thoughts and I said, okay, my password, and I don't mind sharing this because I have a different Facebook now at this time. I chose the password, this thought. So no one's ever going to have access to this thought except me again. So that's my password. Never had to change it. So here's another polymath, Terence McKenna. And my favorite quote by him, it's always come up at really potent times in my life, is this: nature loves courage. You make the commitment and nature will respond to that commitment by removing impossible obstacles. Dream the impossible dream and the world will not grind you under, it will lift you up. This is the trick. This is what all these teachers and philosophers who really counted, who really touched the alchemical gold, this is what they understood. This is the shamanic dance in the waterfall. This is how magic is done, by hurling yourself into the abyss and discovering it's actually a dang feather bed. So I included a link here to a site with some of his really potent quotes. And I just wrote culture and society there because that's one of my favorite areas where there's a whole lot of zingers. So if you get inspired to look that up, that is there. And let's talk about it, right? So it says here, focus on the fundamentals. And right out of college, I had been into personal growth and development, dealing with all sorts of ups and downs in the world that we go through. It can be really frustrating to feel like nobody else gets you. And I found people who got me in books, people who really knew how to like really help you with helping yourself. And I think I remember reading books like Getting in the Gap, talked about meditation. And there was one book on the power of intention. I don't know if you're all familiar with that. Things like that I started getting into. And I guess I got led to some online recordings, and this was maybe 15 years ago now. At that point, so funny to have it resurface in my life 15 years later, but I came across the recordings of a defect from the secret societies. And when I talk about secret societies, yeah, I'm talking about the Brotherhood, the Illuminati, the Freemasons, the Skull and Crossbones, the Young Presidents Organization. And what this man had to say was that the secrets of the billionaires, the people who know how to maintain wealth and power, not just wealth but power, really don't want us to know how simple it actually is. A, yes, that, and B, the power of the brain. The power of the brain is so much more than we are taught, we are told. It is part of this sacred technology that we are granted the opportunity to use on a daily basis. And so, what people have done and do that are in these secret societies where they're actually created because the royal bloodlines believed that their heritage is privileged to wealth and that it's in their genetic coding to be wealthy. And on a frequency level, it actually kind of computes. It obviously that's not true. And I'm not saying I agree with that. But if you're exposed over time to people who believe like this and are wealthy, their frequencies, everything is a frequency, everything is vibration. And so that's going to affect your genetics on some level. And so people who procreate in those families are probably born with genetics that are already have the proclivity, the predisposition to express traits that are likely to easily create wealth, right? So the major takeaway is that there are people who really don't agree with not sharing that like Andrew Carnegie was the steel monopolist guy, and he hired Napoleon Hill, who wrote the Think and Grow Rich book, and he said that you're going to help get the word out. Ford didn't want it. Johnny Rockefeller obviously didn't want it. He's the oil guy and brings to mind thoughts of like, that's where the real snake oil is, right? So the main thing that he got across to me at that young age for me was, if you want to master anything, if you can master your mind, you can do anything, you can control anything. And so that really hit me because I had already been aware of like, oh yeah, my brain gets out of control when I'm angry, and if I can just take a breath, I can step back and I can actually control that from happening and spiraling out of control. And so I sat with that. I sat with, okay, how do I master my mind? And I was already pretty fascinated with learning. I always remember like learning how to tie my shoe as a kid and like get dressed, do little simple things like that, like locking a door. And I thought, these things are not that hard. I bet if I get really good at them, like later on in life, I'll be saving so much brain power so I can learn other things. If I just like, one day, like I won't even have to think about stuff like that. I'll just like do it. And then I can spend my brain energy thinking about other stuff. Right. I remember those thoughts from being a little kid. And so I really like this brain stuff. And so another way that you can say focus on the fundamentals is to say master the basics. And that is the main thing that he said. So there's 5 really main areas to focus on when you're talking about mastering your mind and mastering anything, right? So the main thing is, who do you listen to? And the thing about that, it's pretty basic. Are you listening though? And are you actually listening and associating with the people who are already getting what you want? We all have family and friends who have similar experiences, but maybe they're not actually where we want to be. So it makes sense, even if we're reaching through the online space or through a book or something, to really just focus on their advice and not like put blinders on when it comes to other people who maybe have ideas that sound good, but if they're not actually getting what we're after, it doesn't pay. It really doesn't pay to take any kind of advice from those people, right? So that's the first thing. Who do you listen to? The second thing is teachability index. So what do I mean by teachability index? I'm talking about your willingness to learn. Now, we all want to learn, right? Because when you stop learning, you start dying. When you stop growing, you start dying. Yes. How willing are we to learn? How high are we willing to jump when the teacher, the person getting what we already want, says, well, you have to jump like 2.5 feet, not 2.4 feet, not 2.25, not 2 and 3, 2.5 exactly. Try and hit that mark over and over. Like, how willing are we to like actually say, okay, I don't know anything about this. So there's our willingness to learn and then our willingness to change. I find more importantly in that because information's always changing. And if our teacher says one thing and then says something else the next week, we might want to listen, but it might not make sense at first, right? Okay. And then is the why versus the how. And I wrote it that way. It's really expressed by the teachers from the secret society as the training balance scale. That's really just, to put it simply, focusing on why you want something to happen is 99.9% of everything. A lot of people get into something like a new business, a new skill or whatever, a new project, and they want to know, okay, how is this going to get done? How do I plan everything out perfectly so that I know all the steps? And so I have a clear picture of where I'm going. And on one level, it's not to discount all that the process is important, the steps, the things to do, the action, yes, is something that we want to take, but you don't ever have to worry about it. And that's why what we're talking about today is really going to help you trust that, like, everything. And that is why I put the picture here of me scuba diving somewhere, is that when you are starting something out that is bigger than you and you want to know all the details at first, it's like jumping into the ocean, trying to go scuba diving and putting your mask on, and you can only see what's right in front of you, right? You know where you are, you know where you want to go and what you want to see, but you're expecting to see the whole entire ocean at once. And when you have a goal in mind, you know why you want to go scuba diving, right? You know why you want to be in the ocean, but you don't know all the magic that is surrounding you, that the ocean has in store. Like, what pod of dolphins is like 500 miles away but coming your way? Like, how would you have any idea? Am I right? Is this landing? If this is landing, put a heart in the chat if that makes sense. If you're having any kind of breakthrough, feel free to put a star in the chat. I don't care if you put a less than 3 and do it the arithmetic way, or the heart emoji, or an asterisk, or you spell out the word star, but let me know. I'll obviously get to look at that later. So who do you listen to? Teachability index, and then the why versus the how. Another way to put that scuba mask metaphor is like you have a GPS and you plugged in where you want to go, but it's only showing you where you are on the road, a little bit of that. So you can only see what's in your radar screen, and you just have to trust that the GPS, or the universal intelligence, has this grand, sophisticated design coming in. You just have to trust it, right? Because it knows what it's doing. All right. So the last, or second to last, actually, stage of stages of learning is the last fundamental, last basic of mastering anything, any new skill, right? So the 4 stages of learning are unconscious incompetence, conscious incompetence, conscious competence, and unconscious competence. So that just basically means you start off not aware how incompetent you are. That's unconscious incompetence. Then you move on, practicing the skill, learning from a mentor who's getting what you want, raising your teachability index, raising your willingness to change, so that it takes, getting obsessed, like so passionate that you're willing to really do all these things with intensity and passion, right? And so when you get to the 4 stages of learning, you finally become conscious that you're incompetent. And so you keep up the repetitions, you keep attending the leadership of your mentors, keep reading the books, you keep taking the action, practicing, and then you finally find yourself consciously competent. You keep doing it, you keep tying your shoe, you keep watching how your friend or your mentor is tying their shoe, and before you know it, you've tied your shoe so many times, or you've made a souffle so many times, that you're unconsciously competent. You're not aware of just how competent you actually are, but like you could just do it without being conscious about it. And so that's the magic of really being successful in anything, is getting to that level and then spending enough time on that level. Okay, so let's get into neuroplasticity and what we all want to talk about, because the brain is the most powerful tool that we have. However, change is hard, right? So who feels like change is like the only constant, besides like love, of course, and awareness? things are always changing. And so it really helps to be able to accept change. But when we want to change ourselves, it's kind of hard. It's really not the easiest thing after years and years of habits, thought patterns, beliefs, really just like I said before, as I was a kid, when I was a kid, thinking if I get really good at this, if I keep repeating this over and over, I won't even have to think of it ever again. So the trap there is that we unconsciously adopt these thoughts, patterns, and behaviors that we don't even have to think about. We're self-sabotaging ourselves left and right. And sometimes we don't realize that they're patterns. And then when we finally realize that they are, 95% of how and who we are is on autopilot. And so we have these neural pathways that are so deeply ingrained in our brains that to change them takes a monumental effort. And Joe Dispenza puts it this way. He says, you change, the essence of change is thinking and feeling greater than the conditions of your environment. And so it can be really tricky and sticky, being that our thoughts and behaviors, our personality creates our personal reality, right? Is how it's said. And when our thoughts create a certain behavior, that behavior creates certain experiences, and those experiences create certain feelings in our body. So thinking is the language of the brain, but then the feelings are the language of the body. And so the brain has already started creating these neurochemicals that create those feelings in our body, right? And so that's how addictions happen. We're addicted to our own patterns of emotion. So our body ends up running the show. And so we have to become greater than our body, right? And so to do that, we have to become greater than our physical conditions. And that's why we're here to do a meditation, a powerful meditation, to really just drop out of the body, get into that, put all our energy into the non-physical. Because when we are no longer our body anymore, we're no longer the physical matter that this energy is flowing through, and we become the energy. We put so much energy into the thought, and that is how we overcome those patterns. That's just a start, really. So a nice quote up here at the top says, any real change implies the breakup of the world as one has always known it. Did I already read that? I read it a million times already, but let's talk about paradoxes, because, getting into self-development, you come across a lot of that. And so here's a couple. Visualizing while also staying present, right? So I do a lot of visualizations and creating my future because, I've reframed a lot of my past. I've worked through so many and overcome so many things. And it's given me the freedom to really, really enjoy not just the present, but to enjoy who I know I'm creating, what I know I'm creating. And so when you are able to do that, you no longer have to go back to your past. You get so excited about creating the future. And while it's perfect to do that, it's amazing. The place to do that from is the present, right? We have to be fully here to have the most potent opportunity to create. And with that said, it's really just to make sure we are present and aware of our feelings. And so that's that presence that I'm talking about. We can always, teach our body how we want to feel in the future. And that's one of the skills, real skills of mastery that we're going to get into, is not just being able to create new thought patterns, but to create new feeling patterns in our body, right? Kind of like giving our body the preview of what's to come and kind of priming it into what we want to step into and away from the patterns that we were feeling. Right? So having faith, but using logic. Discipline equates to freedom. Letting go to receive. Desire, don't chase. Putting forth effort can slow down or stop your progress. Esther Hicks talks a lot about this in terms of basically just means if you're like really, really gunning it, trying to make something happen so hard, it's, you're forcing it and you're going to come up with all sorts of resistance. That struggle is just not the right energy to make something happen. And so the more you let go, the more you stop efforting and just let it be easy, the easier it comes, right? So feel good, but also do uncomfortable things. Big one in stretching and growing into new heights that you've never been before. The new is always uncomfortable, right? So we want to step into a good feeling, of course, and create from a feeling good place, but then we also have to be prepared to really get uncomfortable and maybe be scared sometimes, a lot. And the more you know, the more you realize you don't know. Okay, we've all heard that one and we all know how that goes, right? Now, to help the brain and the body remain open, fluid, and flexible and familiar with growth. Just a couple tricks here. Start brushing your teeth with the other hand. I don't care if you do it 3 times a week, every day for the next week. It's better than not doing it at all, right? It really creates that new learning environment for your brain to be like, all right, we're learning stuff, and I'm gonna get this. Change your hair, start, braiding your hair on the other side, do it differently. You look different. Your brain's like, okay, we're learning. Move the fruit basket or the compost bin to a different part of the room, and your brain has to start working on its own neuroplasticity. And for, if you want to break neuroplasticity down, it's just the way that scientists have found the brain to, even though they always thought it was a hardware system, more recently we're finally discovering that the brain can change. The brain can change so fast and so powerfully. Okay, so here are some of my keys to adaptability. I'm just going to scoot that over. Some things that I tell myself when things are changing: let go, right? Let go and trust the universe, like that off the radar screen, that universal intelligence has got us, and we just, we trust it. We know what's there. We know how we want to feel, and we go. And with whatever's coming, just let it. Ask yourself, can you pivot if you have to? So this change, this adaptability, or otherwise said, self reinvention, it's a lifestyle skill. It's not a one-time thing that happens. So that's why I said you kind of have to get obsessed with this to really see results manifest. Is that you have to make this a priority and dive in every day, every moment, if you can. Lately, I've been spending every moment coming back to gratitude, and it's been so powerful. To not get off track, though, I'm adopting a why not mindset. So when you start, we said this, when you stop growing and learning, you start dying. So why not try something new? Keep yourself in that habit of always learning something new, even if it doesn't seem like it is in support of your business. If it's just taking out piano lessons, singing lessons, it's going to help your brain pick up new skills better, right? So how quickly can you accept the unknown as the growth zone? Little one I came up with last night. Now, ready, set, go. Start before you feel ready. You're never going to feel ready. And if you just waste time, you're procrastinating, it's never going to happen. Your nerves are going to build, and it's just going to be a mess. So the sooner you implement something and act on that gut feeling, the smoother it'll go. Case in point, this presentation, I had just started a really powerful meditation practice, a guided meditation. I normally just do it on my own, but I was directed towards a video that just came up, and I'm like, okay, let's click this. It was amazing. I do it every day now. That's how I've been able, I'm not going to say that's exactly how, but since doing that for the last couple of weeks, I was able to close $15,000 in sales just yesterday. And I set up almost the same thing happening for myself next week. And right after I finished that first meditation that I did, I knew I had to keep going, because I had just worked through some like serious interpersonal stuff and felt this breakthrough. And then the meditation came through. And then just after I was done, I was like, I'm ready to do my masterclass. And I think Destiny, my upstream, you might have already reached out to me and said something about it. And I was like, okay, I don't know how, I don't know what I'm going to talk about, but like, let's go, get me on the schedule. I just put it on. And that's how this is happening. That's how you're all here today. So I just said, let's go. I hear you, universe. I feel the subtle urge. I'm going to act on it before I even start thinking about it. Because if I start thinking about it, I know I don't need to think about the how. I just trust. And so that's so important. I can't stress that enough. And now here's a cool example. This is actually an example from Balazs W. Cardos himself, my first mentor in this business. And one of his latest podcasts, he mentioned about a study where they wanted to test how, putting in reps is beneficial to people, and they were comparing quantity versus quality, right? So when we talk about friendships, it's quality over quantity. But when we talk about mastering a skill and being successful at something, they found that when people are making clay pots, throwing 8,000, let's say, for example, basic clay pots a week, throwing it, just like making them, throw them on the wheel and putting them together, makes you a master well before crafting some unique masterpiece clay pot only once a week. So start throwing, right? Quantity always wins that game, because by the time masterpiece clay pot has made 5 of those amazing, beautiful creations, the one who's thrown 8,000 of those, or 8 times 3 is 24,000 in 3 weeks. They could do that and then some, right? They could be putting flowers on theirs like that's going out of style. Like, who even knows? I like the souffle example. Anyway, let's not get out of hand here. So get out ahead of your nerves and just go. Just do the thing that the subtle urge is telling you to do, even if it's just like putting it on your calendar or like opening up the website that you're going to get in and do that, making that contact, sending that one message to that person you're going to contact. Just take that first step. Just do it, and the rest starts falling into place. So the baby steps are much better than analyzing, right? You don't need to analyze. You don't need to worry about the how. Then it's trust. So the discomfort zone it can be scary. Change is always initially uncomfortable. But if you can trust that everything is working out for you, you can trust that discomfort, and you can do what I've done today and gotten really comfortable being uncomfortable or just doing something new and different. Put a positive vibration on the unknown territory by seeing it working out. Instead of getting scared, or even if you're scared, just tell yourself to trust that it's working out. The universe is always conspiring in your favor. And when something comes up that has you fearful or like, should I do that? Get curious. Why not? Take that mindset of why not and just get into like asking yourself, what if it works out? What's the worst that can happen? And so what if I do fail? Like, at least I found out at least I know I tried. And then I found out that doesn't work for me. But then there's always the opportunity that it works out way better than you could have ever imagined, right? Oh man, there's so many things I want to talk about. We're going to talk now about, we're just going to go through this quote, even though it's a little blurry. Yeah, we're just going to skip it because it's a little blurry. And Fanny's asking for attention. Pardon me. We're going to let her out so we can get to this bouncy ball meditation that we're about to do here. I'm going to share my success strategies, and I apologize, guys. It looks like we're going to go over the hour, but if you stick with us, I promise you it will be worth it. So let's talk about the ticks and tricks. Go ahead, Snoopy. In or out? We got 2 dogs here. It's a 3-dog night. Anyway, let's rock on with the tips and tricks that I have used, my daily methods of operation. Most of these are non-negotiable, and I do them every day. Meditation, visualization, and affirmations we talked about. Frequency first, that's the same thing. The concept of slowing down to speed up. So when you want to get something done, it's best not to rush it, right? You can think more clearly. You're not spilling your coffee on yourself and having to slow down to pick it up. You're efficient AF. All right, go ahead, bud. Dad, go on. Mama loves her dogs. You can tell, right? So the other thing is gratitude. And we talked about how powerful gratitude is, but we can't stress it enough. It's one of my most important practices. That's why it's in bold. And to quote Joe Dispenza again, or just to refer to him, he's found that over 12,000 chemical processes happen in your body when you're practicing gratitude that heal the body. And that's just the body, right? So imagine what it's doing for the opportunities, the spiritual and the metaphysical things in our realm that the universe has set up for us. And when we're grateful, it's just going to send more of that right in, right? Dancing. So favorite way to get my frequency up is put on music and dance. Obviously do yoga every day. It's a non-negotiable. If it's not done, I'm not having a day. Don't find me. Don't look for me. Hiking in nature, same thing. Detoxification, and this one should also be in bold because the world is so toxic. There's so much being sprayed in the air. We all know. I don't have to get into all the things. So I practice water fasting, juicing, and raw and living foods all the time. In fact, when things are getting really hectic in my life, water fasting, especially on electric reduced water, the kind of water that we provide people, is so electrically charged. I've been able to go more than 3 days. And of course, that saves money on food. And so I can spend that on other things, but it mostly just frees up my energy and my time to just power through tasks that I'm putting off or haven't able to get to because I'm so busy. But the other thing that I found is, with being, studying nutrition and getting into raw and living foods, is that the body knows how to heal itself if we can just get out of the way of it, right? So when you're water fasting, and even if it's for 24 hours, 36, 72 hours is a really, really, really amazing experience if you can ever do it. But even just 24 hours is such a great reset for your gut, because you're actually you say you're putting yourself on nature's operating table. The other thing I really, really can't stress enough is minerals. Being in agriculture and nutrition for so long has opened my eyes to the fact, and I'm sure you're all well aware, hopefully, if you're not, you are now, that the topsoil in agriculture and across the planet is so highly depleted from conventional practices that even all the organic produce that we could eat does not have enough minerals for the body to sustain. There's like 92 to 106 essential minerals that our body needs to keep up with its processes and be at its most optimal functioning. And so I found things like shilajit, it's a natural resin that comes out of the Himalayan mountains. I have a really good brand I can recommend for shilajit that I just drop in my tea, and I drink that on the daily now. It's super beneficial for your pineal gland to feed it with minerals. So I use natural forms like shilajit, whole food forms, not, any powders or anything like that. I get shilajit, I use sea moss, and I'm always digging my fingernails in the garden. My dogs are back. Anyway, I'm just going to shut the door. We'll keep rolling. So in addition to all the minerals and raw and living foods, the enzymes and living sunlight, I like to call it, that I'm always absorbing, I do the lymph stimulation that I was talking about every day just to get my body going. Sometimes it can be hard to wake up, but if you're doing exercises with your hands at first in bed and then tapping your body to wake it up, it makes it so much easier. You don't need coffee. You don't. Okay, let's talk about circadian rhythms, because this is another big one for me. I've been practicing sun gazing for a long time, and it has been one of the most helpful things to regulate my circadian rhythm, my sleep cycle. And sleep is such an important thing when we're talking about the brain. You can get blue light blocker glasses. Do it, because there is nothing more abundant than nature. And aside from hiking in nature all the time, one of the best things you can do to really tap into the abundance of nature is to get in its rhythms. Like I said, I go by the 13-month calendar as often as I can with things, and nature never steers me wrong, right? There's so many flowers on the trees right now to go in and absorb that. But when we're also absorbing sunlight daily, that feeds the pineal gland. And let's get into that. Let's keep going. Okay. So readers are leaders. I absorb and write for at least 30 minutes a day, reading and rereading, listening and re-listening, because you're always going to get something new when you rewatch, re-listen, and always be writing. I write down my goals, but then I make it a practice of always rewriting them. Have a specific journal for your goals and constantly update, like which one is next, which one do I believe in most so that I can focus on next. Okay, talk about reframing. We did that, reevaluating ourselves. How did we do every day? When we lay down lay our head on the pillow and get ready to go to sleep at night. Yes, visualization of where we're going and our dreams is the last thing we want to think about before we go to sleep. And it's also helpful to just say, how did I do today? And celebrate some wins. It's always good to celebrate wins. Now, when we talk about business, and these are things like you guys probably are so maybe familiar with most of these things. Hopefully some of them are new to you. The idea is, though, that we need repetition. We need reminders of these things. So if you're not doing them, hopefully you get inspiration to pick back up a practice or something like this. And if you feel so called, put that in the chat. If there's anything that you really like that you want to pick up and get back into. Now, when you're going for a new business, it is full send. Yes, master the basics and be consistent. That is the key. Practice those baby steps that you're taught. Practice them over and over and trust. And I promise you the next steps will come to you. And it's just keep it simple and just keep doing it. List the tasks that make you uncomfortable first and smash through them. And you will gain so much confidence and feel the load off your shoulders without having to think about it. You just start doing it back to back, smashing through things that make you scared is one of my favorite new things to do. So that's along a similar vein of acting on subtle impulses, new ideas that, once you're tuned in, tapped into, turned on from meditation, those things will just come to you and you just go through it. Okay, attend extra events and calls. Trust that when something comes up, like a video that you've already watched, but then somebody resends it, or a PDF that you've already read, and you feel like, oh yeah, I know this, that means your teachability has gone way down and you need to get your teachability index back up and read it again. You might get something new out of it. And I promise you that always happens to me when I do. That's the universe offering you another shot to expand and improve. Also, always be committing to who you intend to be and how you intend to serve. Again, who are you listening to? And make a splash with those people. Take risks and frequently socialize with them. Even though you feel like you may not belong in their circle, just get in where you fit in. Okay, now let's get into it. Frequency. This wave here up at the top left is a low frequency wave. Now, isn't that interesting though, that it goes to a really high high and a really low low, but it hasn't completed very many reps, right? So that's like the clay pot analogy we were talking about. When we're talking about a high frequency wave, down below it, you can see it's made so many repetitions. It's gone through that cycle, and that's what makes it high frequency, is that the pattern has repeated itself so frequently. So that's just all we're saying here, is the pattern has
Getting
repeated
out of bed on the
itself.
right side.
Okay, this video is
Or
trying to play, but I want to talk first a little bit about what we're going to watch. So to know and not to do is really not to know. Quote by Stephen R. Covey in one of his books that he wrote. And we're just going to listen to a little bit of my favorite, Esther Hicks, talk about momentum and getting up at the beginning of the day and aligning with your higher self, or she likes to call it your inner being. And from nowhere else can self-improvement more potently come, right? Your inner being, your highest self, is your future self. It is already where you want to be. And so it has all the tips and tricks for you. I'm here saying all these words, but the words don't teach. It's the experience. I'm hoping I'm inspiring you to get experience and meditate, which is just another word for get familiar with your inner being, yourself, and your thoughts. So you came here as an extension of Source with limitless potential. Every day you wake up with the power to co-create with Source. So it's important to note that the intentions and decisions that you make in the first 20 minutes of your day determine how the rest of it goes. Okay, so here we go.
Off on the right foot. That's what we're really talking about. Establishing your vibrational point of attraction first. Because we want you to understand that if you choose it first, it's so easy to get that positive momentum going. But if you wait until you've, without meaning to, by default, picked up and carried over some negative momentum, then it's harder for you to shift from that negative momentum. Law of attraction is the perpetuator of momentum. But you get to choose the direction of your momentum. And most of you are not doing that deliberately. You're just letting conditions that surround you that you might be observing be the reason for the momentum getting going. And then law of attraction just keeps it going until you hear someone like us say you create your own reality, and you say, that can't be true. If I really got to create my own reality, I would create a different reality, Abraham. And we say, you may very well want to create a different reality, and you absolutely have the ability to do it, because there is nothing that you cannot be or do or have. You have the ability to get the momentum going. You have the ability to keep the momentum going. You have the ability to know when the momentum is in the direction that you don't want. You have the ability to slow unwanted momentum. You have the ability to speed wanted momentum. You have the ability to do all of it. You've just got to understand how you do it. And you have to understand momentum. We think you understand momentum, don't you?
Okay, right. So it's your momentum, you direct it or be directed by the momentum that's already in place. All right, now we're going to get into our meditation. And without further ado, let's talk about the pineal gland first. It's important to understand this gland. It is a pea-sized cone-shaped gland. It's often called the third eye. It's referred to by many different cultures as the bridge between the physical and the spiritual world. It's considered the gateway to supernatural powers. So by tapping into and activating this gland, we are able to unlock dormant abilities at the seat of the soul and go well beyond the physical senses. It's a center of intuition and psychic connection, and it's more than just that. It helps us awaken to our higher self when it's fully opened. And it sits just behind the middle of the brain. There are cones and rods in it that, like I said, can take in light, which is why it's so nourished by the sun and sun gazing. I didn't mention this, and I should have, because if you've never practiced sun gazing, you don't want to look at the sun straight in the middle of the day. It's only between the first 15 to 30 minutes of sunrise and before the last 15 and 30 minutes before the sun sets that the UV index is almost at zero. So it's not going to burn your eyes to look at. And this is the most amazing time to practice breathing, looking at the sun without blinking, being grounded, and really just, there's nothing like it. I can't wait to be surfing on a wave one day, watching the sunset on an amazing water fast. That's top of my bucket list. It's going to be so great. Anyway, it produces melatonin and dimethyltryptamine, which most of probably familiar with the psychedelic effects of DMT. Scientists have found that it's produced, in times of death to help, who knows what it's actually for, if it is to help that transition. But yeah, it's an amazing substance that can be produced in higher amounts the healthier our pineal gland is. So it produces melatonin too from the precursor serotonin. That melatonin is super important in being able to sleep. So if your pineal gland is exposed to, obviously, most of you are probably familiar with the blue light disrupting our pineal gland. So I don't need to get too much into that, but it's very important to take care of that. So there are actually piezoelectric crystals in our pineal glands that are made from calcite, and they can be affected by ambient electric fields, which is why it's so important to put your phone in airplane mode at night. Stay far away from it. Don't put those earbud pods in unless you have a really good EMF harmonizer device plugged in nearby you at all times. That pineal gland is your most powerful transmitter of frequencies, and your dreams and desires are made there. They live there. And so, things like your diet too can calcify the pineal gland, especially with heavy metals. Fluoride has been found to actually have a proclivity to accumulate faster than all the heavy metals on the pineal gland. And so we don't want it calcified, because the pineal gland, we have found, can be activated, and that electromagnetic field can be stimulated and grow by physical pressure, which can be generated by our cerebrospinal fluid. And so that's when we talk about breath work and pineal gland activation, we're really talking about Kundalini breath work, where we are bringing this energy from the root chakra and sending it up with our breath, and then a series of muscle locks to increase the pressure and send that energy up to our brain and that fluid up to our brain. And then we're going to do a series of muscle locks and pulses where you may hear a click. You may hear an actual click in between your ears. And that's your pineal gland crystals activating and being forced by the pressure into activation. So we're about to get into that. I've already talked about my tools that I use to rise with the tides and let my own cork float. These are just reminders in case anybody, wants to take anything from that. So if you feel called, let us take out a pen and paper if you have it. We're going to do this exercise quick so we can let everybody get back to their lives, but we're going to do it with intention so that it's potent for everybody. So please get comfortable, get your pen and paper out, and begin to think about a moment that you felt so powerful. It could be you rode a really big wave, and you did it really well. You gave birth to your first or your most recent baby, something like you did that. Like, I did that. Okay. You don't have to write these down actually, but you can if you want. Now, let's also think about one way that you have helped someone out in their life. You've helped someone get through something, and you felt really good about it. You can close your eyes. You can really just experience the gratitude, experience that moment over again. And if you feel inclined, put your hands on your hips, maybe lean back a little bit, and see if you can notice a difference in your thought patterns. If you do that, if any new thoughts come to you while you're doing that, we call that a power stance. We just get in a stance where our bodies are leading the way, but in a good way. We have that pattern of feeling really good about ourselves, and that's okay to do. It's not bad to be self-centered. To be self-centered or centered in yourself is to realize yourself as the source of your own reality. It's a powerful place to be. So I hope everybody's comfortable. I am going to join you myself. I'm not going to write them down, but this is what we're going to write on your piece of paper. So take a couple of minutes and write down 9 things that you wake up eager every day to realize in this lifetime. We're going to start now. Amazing, guys. And just know if you make it to the end, which is coming pretty soon, I have another really special, powerful gift coming up for everybody too. Okay, if you're ready now, I want you to list 6 habits or traits that that version of you exhibits on the daily. So 6 ways that you see that vision or version of you being expressed. What does it look like to be that, to be having accomplished all those 9 things? Nice. How does it feel? What are some thoughts that you might think? Maybe even just like new challenges coming up or new plans that you're having. All right. And we're going to activate that. So we're going to get really comfortable. If you can sit cross-legged or just, with a straight, tall spine, just start acknowledging your breath. Start letting go of the body. And you know what? I'm going to sit actually on the floor so I can do this with you. And let your hands rest by your sides, on your knees if possible. What we are going to do, I'm going to walk you through the process of this meditation before we begin, but when we close our eyes, we're going to really envision some moments of being that future self. We're going to think and feel as if we already are that and get into embodying that and breathing into what it really feels like to be that. But the first thing that I want to explain to you guys is how this activation works. So, like I said, we're going to visualize this, and then we're going to use our thoughts about that and see them, because thoughts are energy, right? And so we're going to see that energy pouring into a ball of golden white light at the root chakra, and it's going to build up. And when we inhale with a series of mudras that I'm about to show you, you don't have to hold the mudras, but it's really potent if you can. We're going to watch that ball of light climb up our spine, vertebra by vertebra, activating each chakra as it goes up. And then holding our breath at the top, we're going to use those muscle locks that I talked about to increase the pressure of the cerebrospinal fluid and pulse 3 times. So we're going to use the perineal muscle at the base of our pelvic floor, and that's what we're going to pulse 3 times. Once we feel that energy get there, we're going to hold that energy, that ball of light right at the top. It passes through our ajna, our third eye chakra. It's going to go up to the crown. We're going to squeeze, and this is called the Kubera mudra right here. If anybody wants to hold this mudra, I'm taking my pinky and ring finger and pressing it into the center of my palm, and then just pressing my first three fingers together in both hands, holding them on my knees. And with every inhale, I'm going to be squeezing that really tightly and just slowly watching that energy go up. And then when I finally feel that energy go up there with my eyes closed, you can do this if you want to. I'll have my tongue pressed against the roof of my mouth until I let go of all this. It's going to increase that pressure, and I'm going to have my eyes, even though they're closed, looking up to my third eye. So looking up between the eyebrows at that third eye point. Get in your mudra, get in the zone, and breathe. And get back into that you who has accomplished those 9 things. You are exhibiting and exuding those six habits and essences and thought patterns every single day. And just feel how grateful you are for the you that's here doing this meditation now and all the things that you've done to get yourself there. How cool that you finally, like, you freaking did that. Like, you freaking are that. And nothing can ever take that away from you, right? So think some loving thoughts of gratitude for all in that, and let that image, let those layers of those experiences just build up for a minute. Breathing into that, just loving and enjoying how happy you are, how satisfied and accomplished you are. And now all of those thoughts, pour them right down into your root chakra and let that light build. Let the white golden light just start glowing down there. Take your hands, place them at your knees, get your spine nice and tall, your chest and head high. You tuck your chin a little bit. Just take a nice deep breath here. Inhale, exhale. A couple more times. You can focus on the third eye with your eyes closed. You can press your tongue against the roof of your mouth, and you can hold your mudra. Visualize that light on the next inhale going up, up, up as you squeeze. And when it reaches the top, start seeing it pass through the sacral chakra and squeezing your perineal muscle and breathing and inhaling up, passing through all the chakras. You're going to clench your stomach, your diaphragm, your throat, your chest, your all those muscles, and pulse that fluid 3 times all the way at the top. Hold, and when you're ready, let go. You can release your hands, release your tongue, release, look down if you need, and let that energy ball just sink back down on the exhale. And on the inhale, you're just going to do it again. Squeezing the diaphragm, squeezing the mudra, lifting the energy up with your breath, squeezing that fluid with your stomach, your diaphragm, your chest, your throat, up, up, pressing it up. Pulse that perineal muscle 3 times at least, if you can more. Hold it up there and let go when you need to. Relax. Just keep that pattern going. Holding the locks on the way up. Squeezing that perineal muscle once it's reached the top. When you're done, let it all back down. Let it all go. Watching that energy go up and down at your own pace. It's a lot like that carnival or arcade game where you hit the mallet on that column pole and you see the light go up at the top. And when it's at the top, that light just bursts open and get a loud noise out of it. Burst up with your perineal muscle, squeeze it really tight, and then just let it go. Let it fall back down to the root. Watching that beautiful white light, all that beautiful energy just pulsating with every inhale, rising up and up. Let you go for another few minutes. And if it's too much for you, go easy. If this is your first time, especially, really be gentle with yourself and just stay in that vision of who you are and feed that beautiful white light. It doesn't have to move, but it can if you want it to. Just breathe. Okay, we'll go for a few more rounds. Amazing, you guys. Slowly come back to a normal breathing pattern. Can press your hands at the center of your chest if you want to speak some gratitude or feel some gratitude for the presence that you've been able to have and engage in. And it's okay if that was clunky. It felt weird and hard to coordinate at first, especially if that was your first time. It's going to feel like that. It's an amazing practice to just get good at. And like I said, master the basics. But thank you for engaging. And when you're ready, please open your eyes. I'm going to share my screen again, because if you're still here, that means you have time to do one of the most potent things that I've most recently began engaging in, and that is teamwork. So I really want to congratulate you for completing that. I cut it a little bit short because I want to honor all our time. The last thing, if you do have time, if you have to hop off, that's totally okay. We're going to help each other achieve something this week. And closing out the meditation, coming back into our beautiful vessels with this amazing quote by my most recent mentor, Owen Hone: vulnerability is courageous and authenticity is contagious. How true, right? So this is the exercise, final slide, the rising tide that lifts all the ships. So the last thing we're going to do is just pick one challenge that we want to overcome this week. If you're a guest here, feel free to reach out to whatever treasure, whoever it was that invited you here first. If not, you can reach out to me or someone else that you feel comfortable that will help you achieve this goal. It could be anything. It could be like, I need to do my taxes, or I'm struggling with anxiety, my diet is crap. Whatever it is, put it on the books, and your accountability partner is going to help you at least take the first baby step, if not more. And so when you get in touch, we're going to find out where you would like to be, where you are now, and what is holding you back. How can I help you? That's it. And you're just going to get in contact with this individual each day for the following week to assess and assist your buddy's progress. And when they win, you win. And I would really appreciate if you all would get in touch with me at the end of the week and let me know how that challenge went, what you were able to accomplish, and how, if that person helped you out, let me know how that went. And I want to offer a free breathwork activation session one-on-one with me for whoever gives the best report, whatever accountability partner gets the best job done, best report, for lack of a better term. So thank you all so much. And if anybody has any questions, I'll quickly check the chat. I apologize for going nearly a half an hour over. I so value your time here, and cheers to you guys for investing all of that in yourself and each other. Oh, thanks, Kristen. And feel free to unmute now too if you have any comments or questions that I haven't gotten to yet. Aw, cool. All right. Thank you. You're so welcome. And I hope to hear from everybody soon. So good to see you. And so much love for you all. Ciao for now.